Captain Morrison led the council delegation through corridors that seemed to stretch forever. Zexathara tried to hide his growing concern as they passed section after section of the massive vessel. Each area they visited made the humans seem more dangerous than peaceful explorers. "This is our primary manufacturing center," Morrison said as they entered a vast chamber filled with robotic arms and industrial equipment. "We can build almost anything we need for the colony." The council members exchanged worried glances. Their eyes. This looked like a weapons factory capable of producing military equipment on a massive scale. The machines were huge and powerful enough to forge armor plating or construct warship components. Chief Engineer Danny Rodriguez joined the tour and spoke with obvious pride about his systems. "These fabrication units can process raw materials from asteroids or planetary surfaces. We can turn basic elements into anything from housing components to complex electronics." Rodriguez showed them storage bays filled with metal ingots and processing equipment. To him, these were the tools needed to build a new civilization. To the aliens, they looked like the supplies needed to outfit a massive army. "How much material can you process?" asked Counselor Yithron in his buzzing insect voice. "We can mine an entire asteroid belt if we need to," Rodriguez answered cheerfully. The Leviathan was built to be completely self-sufficient. Zexathara felt his blood run cold. A ship that could consume whole star systems for resources sounded like a threat to every world in the galaxy. He tried to stay calm as they continued the tour. The next stop made things worse. Morrison brought them to what he called the agricultural decks, where plants grew under artificial sunlight. Row after row of growing beds stretched into the distance, and automated systems tended the crops. "We grow food for 50,000 people," Morrison explained. "Plus, we have experimental gardens where Dr. Sullivan studies plant adaptation for different planetary conditions." Dr. Kate Sullivan appeared, as if summoned by her name. She was a thin woman with bright eyes who immediately focused on the alien visitors with intense interest. "Fascinating," she said while looking directly at Zexathara. "I have never seen your species before. May I ask about your respiratory requirements?" The direct study made Zexathara uncomfortable. Sullivan pulled out a tablet and began taking notes about each council member's physical characteristics. Her questions about their biology, diet, and environmental needs sounded like intelligence gathering for biological warfare. "Dr. Sullivan is our xenobiologist," Morrison said. "She studies how different life forms adapt to various environments. Her work helps us understand what conditions each species needs to thrive." To human ears, this sounded like peaceful scientific research. To the council delegation, it sounded like someone planning to develop species-specific weapons or create optimal conditions for controlling different alien races. They moved on to see the ship's defensive systems. Navigation Officer Chris Parker joined them at the command center, where massive displays showed the space around the Leviathan. The humans had sensors that could track objects across entire star systems. "Our long-range scanners can detect potential threats from several light hours away," Parker explained. "We also have point defense systems for clearing debris and asteroid mining lasers for resource extraction." He showed them recordings of the mining lasers in action. The beams could slice through solid rock like it was soft butter. The humans called them mining tools, but the council members saw weapons that could burn continents. "These defensive measures seem quite advanced," Zexathara said carefully. "They have to be," Parker replied. "Deep space is dangerous and we cannot afford to lose the ship. Everyone depends on the Leviathan staying intact until we find our new home." The casual mention of their plans to find a new home led to more disturbing revelations. Parker pulled up star charts showing their intended route through the galaxy. "We plan to establish footholds on suitable worlds along this path," he said, while pointing to various star systems. "The goal is to spread humanity across multiple planets so we never face extinction again." Parker talked about terraforming equipment and planetary colonization techniques. He described how they could adapt worlds to human needs and establish permanent settlements. To him, this was just smart planning for species survival. To the aliens, it sounded like a blueprint for galactic conquest. The tour continued through residential sections where human families lived in comfortable apartments. Children ran through playgrounds while adults worked at various tasks. Everything looked normal and peaceful, but the scale was overwhelming. "You said 50,000 souls," Zexthera said. "Are these all civilians?" "Most are," Morrison answered. "We have families, teachers, doctors, engineers, farmers, and artists. Everyone needed to build a new society. Our security force is small since we hope to avoid conflicts." Even the small security force numbered in the thousands according to the ship's records. These humans had enough trained fighters to invade most council worlds. The fact that they called it small only made things more frightening. Chief Security Officer Ryan Walsh showed them the armory where personal weapons were stored. The humans carried projectile weapons that seemed primitive but effective. Walsh explained that every adult received basic combat training as part of emergency preparedness. "We hope never to use these weapons," Walsh said. "But everyone must. Be ready to defend the ship and protect the families aboard." An entire population trained for warfare and armed with unknown weapons sounded like a military force beyond anything the Council had faced. The humans spoke of defense and protection, but their capabilities suggested offensive potential. Near the end of the tour, they visited the ship's massive fusion reactors. The power systems produced more energy than most Council worlds used in a year. Rodriguez explained that the reactors could run for centuries without refueling. "We need this much power for life support, manufacturing, and propulsion," he said. "The Leviathan is like a small planet in terms of energy requirements." The engineering sections contained backup systems and redundant equipment for every vital function. The humans had planned for every possible failure or emergency. This level of preparation suggested either extreme paranoia or extensive military planning. As the tour ended, Morrison led them back to the shuttle bay. "I hope this visit has helped you understand our mission," he said. "We are simply refugees looking for a new home where we can rebuild our civilization." Zexthera nodded politely, but his mind raced with implications. These humans had built what appeared to be the most powerful warship in the galaxy and filled it with a massive population trained for warfare. They possessed technology that could strip planets bare and weapons that could burn worlds. Worst of all, they spoke of spreading across the galaxy and establishing colonies on multiple worlds. If this was just one of their ships, how many more might be coming? The Council faced a potential invasion force that dwarfed anything in their experience. "Thank you for your hospitality, Captain," Zexthera said as they reached the shuttle. "The Council will need time to process everything we have learned today." Morrison shook hands again and smiled. "We look forward to peaceful relations with your people, Admiral. Please let us know if you need anything else." As their shuttle departed the Leviathan, Zexthera stared back at the massive vessel. The humans seemed friendly and reasonable, but their capabilities were terrifying. He needed to warn the Council immediately about this new threat to galactic peace. The emergency session of the Galactic Council convened in the Great Chamber on Nexus Prime, faster than anyone could remember. Representatives from all 12 member species filled the circular hall as Admiral Zexthera stood at the center to deliver his report. The weight of 50,000 years of galactic peace rested on his words. "Honored counselors," he began, "we have encountered a species that may pose the greatest threat our civilization has ever faced." The chamber fell silent except for the quiet hum of translation devices. Even the normally chattering Myrthan traders stopped their whispered conversations to listen. Zexthera activated the holographic display system and showed images of the UES Leviathan. Gasps and clicks of alarm echoed through the chamber as the massive vessel appeared above their heads. The ship looked even more menacing in the formal council setting. "This vessel is 12 kilometers long and carries 50,000 beings," Zexthera continued. "It possesses manufacturing capabilities that could outfit entire armies, weapons that could destroy planets, and technology we barely understand." Counselor Yithran of the Kretek species stood on his 4 insect legs and buzzed his wings in agitation. "Admiral, surely you exaggerate the threat. No single ship could challenge the entire council." "I wish that were true, Counselor," Zexthera replied. "But this vessel carries more population than some of our member worlds. Their industrial capacity exceeds most planets, and their power systems generate energy on a stellar scale." He showed recordings from the tour, carefully explaining what they had seen. The manufacturing bays that could produce unlimited military equipment, the biological research that could develop species-specific weapons, the massive population trained for warfare and armed with unknown technology. Elder Serende of the peaceful, luminous species glowed softly with concern. Her people communicated through color changes, and her usual golden hue had shifted to worried orange. Admiral, did these humans make any hostile moves or threats? No, Elder, Zexathara admitted. They seemed friendly and spoke only of peaceful exploration, but their actions tell a different story. They have built what amounts to a mobile fortress and filled it with an army. The warlike Gorvani representative General Korth slammed his armored fist on his speaking platform. Then we should strike first before they can complete their preparations. One ship cannot stand against the full might of the Council fleet. That assumes this is their only ship, Zexathara said grimly. He activated another display showing intelligence reports. Our monitoring stations have detected similar energy signatures in 7 different sectors over the past year. We may be facing not one vessel but an entire fleet. Panic rippled through the chamber. If the humans had multiple ships of this size, they represented a threat beyond anything the Council had prepared for. Even their combined fleets might not be enough to stop such a force. Intelligence Director Cole Nash stepped forward with additional disturbing news. His species looked like walking crystals and his voice rang like chimes. Counselors, we have intercepted human communications referencing something called Project Exodus. Our analysts believe this refers to a large-scale colonization program involving dozens of these massive vessels. The implications hit the chamber like a physical blow. Dozens of ships meant millions of humans spreading across the galaxy. Each vessel could establish colonies that would grow into threats to nearby Council worlds. What do we know about their home world? Asked Trade Minister Velk of the Myrthan. His people were small and gray with large black eyes that missed nothing, involving profit or loss. Their planet appears to be dying, Kolanash reported. Environmental damage and resource depletion have made it barely habitable. These ships represent their species' attempt to survive by spreading to other worlds. Desperate species are often the most dangerous, General Korth growled. They have nothing to lose and everything to gain from conquest. Elder Serende tried to maintain calm. Perhaps we can negotiate with them. Offer them suitable worlds in exchange for peaceful behavior. What worlds? Demanded Counselor Thex of the territorial Zephyrians. Every habitable planet in Council space already belongs to member species. Would you have us give them our own colonies? The debate grew heated as different species argued for different approaches. The insectoid Kretex wanted immediate military action to eliminate the threat. The crystalline Velthari suggested trying to understand human technology before making decisions. The aquatic depths dwellers worried about human plans to terraform worlds. We cannot simply attack them without provocation, Serende insisted. The Council was founded on principles of peaceful coexistence and mutual benefit. Those principles mean nothing if we are all dead, General Korth replied. These humans have built weapons of mass destruction and aimed them at our space. That is provocation enough. Admiral Zexathara tried to restore order. Counselors, we must consider all options carefully. The humans claim to seek only passage through Council space to reach uninhabited systems beyond our borders. And you believe them? Ythran buzzed skeptically. They build warships and call them exploration vessels. They train armies and call them civilians. Nothing about these creatures is honest. Director Kolnash provided more intelligence that worried everyone. Our deep space monitors have detected at least 3 human vessels already past our outer boundaries. If they are hostile, they could attack our core worlds before we could respond. Fear spread through the chamber as representatives realized human ships might already be in position to strike. The careful diplomacy that had maintained galactic peace for millennia seemed powerless against this new threat. What are our military options? Asked Defense Coordinator Rax of the militant Forge Worlds. General Korth activated tactical displays showing Council fleet positions. We have sufficient forces to engage individual human ships, but fighting multiple vessels simultaneously would be costly. Their technology appears advanced, and we do not understand their full capabilities. Economic options might work better, suggested Trade Minister Velk. We could offer them resources and assistance in exchange for agreements limiting their expansion. With what leverage? Thex demanded. They can apparently strip mine entire star systems. What do we have that they need? Elder Serende tried a different approach. Perhaps we should send a larger diplomatic mission. More comprehensive talks might reveal peaceful solutions. Several species began breaking into separate discussions as the formal debate dissolved into chaos. Some wanted to mobilize their home fleets while others pushed for immediate diplomatic contact with other human ships. The unity that had defined the Council for 50,000 years began to crack under pressure. Admiral Zexathera watched with growing alarm as fear overcame reason. He had seen this pattern before when crisis threatened the delicate balance between species. Without decisive leadership, the Council could fragment into competing factions. Counselors, he called for attention. We must not let fear drive us to hasty decisions. I propose sending additional intelligence-gathering missions before taking any irreversible actions. And if these human ships attack while we gather intelligence, General Korth demanded. Then we defend ourselves, Zexthera replied. But we do not start a war based on assumptions and fear. The emergency session continued for hours as representatives struggled to find consensus. Some species had already begun quiet preparations for conflict, while others reached out through back channels to establish contact with human vessels. As the meeting finally ended without clear decisions, each delegation returned to their home, worlds with the same terrible knowledge. Humanity had arrived in Council space with power beyond their understanding and intentions that remained unclear. The galaxy would never be the same. Captain Morrison stood in the observation deck watching alien ships gather in the distance. What had started as a peaceful first contact was turning into something that made his stomach twist with worry. Chief Security Officer Ryan Walsh stood, beside him holding reports that painted a troubling picture. Captain, we now have visual confirmation of at least 40 Council vessels in this system, Walsh said. Long-range sensors detect more ships jumping in every hour. Morrison studied the tactical display that showed red dots representing alien vessels. They had formed what looked like attack formations around the Leviathan, while maintaining what military doctrine called a respectful distance. To a civilian captain, it looked like preparation for battle. Any hostile actions? Morrison asked. Nothing direct, Walsh replied, but several ships have been scanning us with what appear to be targeting sensors. Their weapon systems are powered but not aimed at us yet. The bridge doors opened and First Officer Amanda Price walked in carrying more disturbing news. Her usually calm expression showed strain as she handed Morrison a datapad. Captain, Communications Officer Bennett has been monitoring alien transmissions. The translation software picked up some concerning phrases. Morrison read through the intercepted messages. Words like threat assessment, military response, and defensive preparations appeared frequently. Most alarming were references to something called a battle fleet being summoned to deal with the human problem. They think we are here to attack them, he said after finishing the report. It appears so, Price agreed. The question is what we do about it. Morrison called for a meeting of his senior staff in the main conference room. Within minutes, his key officers gathered around the oval table that had hosted hundreds of peaceful discussions about colony planning. Today they faced a very different kind of problem. Chief Engineer Danny Rodriguez looked confused as he studied the alien fleet positions. Captain, I do not understand why they are treating us as hostile. We have been completely open about our mission and capabilities. Dr. Kate Sullivan had been reviewing her notes from the alien visit. I think I may have contributed to the problem, she said quietly. My interest in their biology might have seemed threatening. In hindsight, my questions could have appeared to be intelligence gathering for biological warfare. Navigation Officer Chris Parker pulled up star charts showing their planned route. My presentation about spreading across the galaxy might have sounded like conquest plans rather than peaceful colonization. The pieces began falling into place, as Morrison realized how their peaceful intentions could be misunderstood. A ship the size of the Leviathan would naturally be seen as military rather than civilian. Their industrial capabilities could easily be mistaken for weapons manufacturing. Even their population could seem like an invasion force rather than refugee families. We have a serious communication problem, Morrison concluded. These aliens see us as a threat to their entire civilization. Communications Officer Lisa Bennett entered the room with urgent news. Captain, we just received an official transmission from the Council. They are demanding our immediate surrender and submission to their authority. The message played on the main screen in the formal tones of official diplomacy. Admiral Zexithara spoke for the Council as he delivered what amounted to an ultimatum. The humans had 1 day to power down their weapons, surrender their command staff, and submit to Council authority. Failure to comply would result in military action. Silence filled the conference room as the message ended. Every officer understood the implications. 50,000 civilians depended on their decisions in the next few hours. Military options, Morrison asked Walsh. Limited, the security chief replied honestly. We have point defense systems and mining lasers, but this ship was never designed for combat. Against 40 warships, we would not last long. Could we run? Parker asked. Negative, Rodriguez said. The Leviathan is fast for her size, but those alien ships appear much more maneuverable. They would catch us before we could jump to hyperspace. Morrison looked around the table at faces that reflected his own thoughts. They had brought 50,000 people across the galaxy seeking safety, and instead found themselves trapped in a misunderstanding that could end in tragedy. Diplomatic solutions, he asked Price. I am working on several options, she replied. But their ultimatum suggests they are not interested in further negotiations. Dr. Sullivan raised her hand tentatively. Captain, what if we showed them our true nature instead of trying to explain it? Actions might speak louder than words. What do you mean? Morrison asked. We demonstrate that this ship is really a civilian colony vessel. Show them families, children, schools, and peaceful activities. Make it clear that we are refugees, not invaders. Parker leaned forward with interest. We could activate all our civilian systems in full view of their sensors. Manufacturing, agriculture, life support, everything that proves we are exactly what we claim to be. Rodriguez nodded enthusiastically. The aliens saw our capabilities during the tour, but they interpreted everything as military. If we operate all systems simultaneously, the true pattern should be obvious. Morrison felt hope returning as his officers developed the plan. Instead of trying to explain their peaceful intentions, they would demonstrate them through action. The Leviathan would show the galaxy what human determination looked like when applied to survival, rather than conquest. Make it happen, he ordered. I want every civilian system operating at full capacity. Show these aliens what a real colony ship looks like. The next few hours transformed the Leviathan into a showcase of human ingenuity. Manufacturing bays began producing prefabricated housing modules for future colonies. Agricultural sections increased food production to support population growth. Educational systems activated holographic classrooms where children learned about their new home among the stars. Most impressive were the mining and construction systems that extended from the hull like mechanical flowers blooming in space. Massive robotic arms reached out into the void, while fabrication units came online with brilliant displays of industrial power. To human eyes, it was a beautiful demonstration of their peaceful mission. To alien observers, it looked like a massive warship preparing for battle. The situation escalated when a nervous council captain decided the extending mechanical arms represented weapon deployment. A single plasma bolt lanced out from his ship and struck one of the Leviathan's communication arrays in a shower of sparks and debris. Alarms sounded throughout the human ship as damage control teams rushed to assess the impact. The hit had knocked out primary communications but caused no serious harm. More importantly, it represented the first hostile act in what had been a tense but peaceful standoff. Report, Morrison demanded as he rushed to the bridge. Single plasma hit on communication array 7, Walsh replied. Minimal damage, but they clearly fired on us without provocation. Morrison stared at the alien fleet surrounding his ship. Everything had changed with that single shot. The Council had moved from threats to actual violence against a peaceful vessel carrying 50,000 civilians. Captain, Bennett called from her station. I am receiving multiple transmissions from the alien ships. Most appear to be military coordination, but some sound like arguments between their commanders. Morrison realized the aliens were as confused and frightened as he was. That single shot might have been a mistake rather than a declaration of war. Perhaps there was still hope for a peaceful resolution. Open all communication channels, he ordered. I want to speak directly to every ship in that fleet. The stars looked different from this part of space, but Admiral Zexathera had seen many strange sights in his 40 years of service to the Galactic Council. His ship Harmony's voice moved through the void with grace that only Council technology could achieve. The crystalline hull caught starlight and bent it into beautiful patterns that danced across the bridge. 7 different alien species worked together on his command deck, and each brought their own skills to the mission. Today should have been routine. The Council sent patrol fleets to check new sectors every few months, and most times they found nothing but empty space and dead rocks. Sometimes they discovered new civilizations that needed guidance to join the galactic community. Zexathara enjoyed those meetings because they usually ended with celebration and new friends. The censor officer called out in the clicking language of the Kretek species. Admiral, we have detected something massive entering this system. Zexathara turned, his scaled head toward the main screen. His people came from ocean worlds and his skin still held the blue-green color of deep water. Show me what you found. The image that appeared made every being on the bridge go silent. A metal object moved between the stars, and it was bigger than anything Zexathara had ever seen. The ship looked crude and ugly compared to Council vessels, but its size made up for any lack of beauty. Rough metal plates covered the hull and strange structures stuck out in all directions. How big is that thing? Zexathara asked. The censor officer checked his readings twice before answering. 12 kilometers long, Admiral. Our biggest dreadnought is only 3 kilometers. Whispers spread across the bridge in a dozen different languages. The trade-focused Murthan delegation started calculating costs while the warrior Gorvani examined weapon placements. Everyone had the same thought, but nobody wanted to say it first. Run a full scan, Zexathara ordered. I want to know everything about this vessel. The results came back strange. The ship had thick armor plating but no obvious weapon ports. Massive fusion reactors powered systems they could not identify. Most confusing were the energy signatures that suggested millions of life forms aboard. Admiral, the communications officer said, we are receiving a transmission from the unknown vessel. Put it through. The voice that came through the speakers spoke broken galactic standard with an accent nobody recognized. This is UES Leviathan, requesting permission to transit through this system. We mean no harm, and seek only safe passage. Zexathara looked at his crew. First contact protocols were clear, but this situation felt different. The massive ship could destroy his entire fleet if it chose to, but the transmission sounded peaceful. Still, something about the vessel made his scales itch with worry. Unknown vessel, this is Admiral Zexathara of the Galactic Council. You have entered Council space without permission. State your intentions and prepare to be boarded for inspection. A pause followed before the voice responded. Admiral, this is Captain Jake Morrison of the UES Leviathan. We are a peaceful exploration vessel from Earth. We welcome contact with your council and will be happy to meet with your representatives. Zexathara studied the ship again. Exploration vessel seemed like a strange name for something so massive and heavily built. He decided to proceed carefully. Captain Morrison, we will approach your vessel with a diplomatic shuttle. Please provide docking coordinates and prepare suitable atmosphere for our delegation. Understood, Admiral. We are transmitting docking bay information now. Our artificial gravity is set to Council standard, and we can provide appropriate atmosphere for your species. That surprised Zexathara. How did these humans know about Council standards when this was supposed to be first contact? His intelligence officer caught his attention and pointed to her screen. Admiral, preliminary analysis suggests this species has been monitoring our communications for some time. They have learned basic galactic standard and understand our technology. Implications worried him. A species advanced enough to build ships this size and smart enough to study them in secret could pose a serious threat to Council space. He would need to be very careful during this meeting. "Prepare the diplomatic shuttle," he ordered. "Standard first contact team with full security escort." His first officer moved closer and spoke quietly. "Admiral, should we call for reinforcements before boarding that vessel?" Zexathara considered the question. Council doctrine required caution when meeting unknown species, but it also stressed the importance of peaceful contact. This Captain Morrison sounded reasonable and had agreed to the meeting without argument. "Send a coded message to command," he decided. "Inform them of the situation, but tell them we are proceeding with standard protocols. If we do not report back in 12 hours, they should send a battle fleet." The shuttle bay of the alien ship was enormous. Zexathara's diplomatic craft looked tiny as it settled onto the landing pad. Through the shuttle windows, he could see other vessels of unknown design secured in the vast space. Some looked like cargo haulers, while others might be fighters or scouts. Humans waited to greet them as they emerged from the shuttle. Zexathara had studied many alien species, but these creatures looked both familiar and strange. They walked on, 2 legs like many council races, but their skin had no scales or fur. Instead, they wore artificial coverings that seemed to serve as both protection and decoration. The human who stepped forward had short brown hair and wore what appeared to be a formal uniform. "Admiral Zexathara, welcome aboard the UES Leviathan. I am Captain Jake Morrison." The human extended one hand in what appeared to be a greeting gesture. Zexathara had read about such customs and carefully took the offered hand. Morrison's grip was firm but not threatening. "Captain Morrison, thank you for agreeing to this meeting. The Galactic Council is always pleased to make contact with new civilizations." Morrison smiled and showed white teeth. "We are honored by your visit, Admiral. Please let me show you around our ship so you can see what we are about." As they walked deeper into the vessel, Zexathara noticed more strange things. The corridors were wide enough for large groups to move together, and everything seemed built for heavy use. This was clearly a ship designed to carry many beings for long periods. "Captain, how many crew members serve on this vessel?" he asked. Morrison's answer made every member of the council delegation stop walking. "We have 50,000 souls aboard, Admiral. Families, workers, scientists, and support staff. The Leviathan is our home as we search for a new world to settle." Captain Morrison stood before the main communication array as Chief Engineer Rodriguez worked to restore the damaged systems. Sparks still flew from the plasma hit, but the repair crews had managed to establish backup connections to most of the ship's transmitters. "Captain, we have communication links to all alien vessels," Lisa Bennett reported from her station. "Translation protocols are active and ready." Morrison took a deep breath and looked around his bridge at the officers who had followed him across the galaxy. They had left Earth as explorers seeking new homes for humanity. He would not let fear and misunderstanding turn them into something they were never meant to be. "Open channels to all council ships," he ordered. The communication board lit up with dozens of active connections as Morrison's voice reached every alien vessel in the system. He spoke slowly and clearly, knowing that translation systems needed time to process his words accurately. "Council ships, this is Captain Jake Morrison of the UES Leviathan. I am not speaking to your commanders or your governments. I am speaking directly to you, the crews who serve aboard those vessels, because you deserve to know the truth about who we are and why we are here." Morrison gestured to the tactical display showing the positions of alien ships around his vessel. "You see us as a massive warship filled with soldiers and weapons. Your leaders believe we have come to conquer your space and threaten your worlds. I understand why you might think this because our ship is indeed large and powerful. But you have misunderstood our purpose and our nature." He activated the internal ship cameras that showed scenes throughout the Leviathan. Families eating meals in residential sections, children playing in parks and learning in schools, elderly humans tending gardens while young couples planned for their future together. "These are not soldiers preparing for war," Morrison continued. "These are refugees fleeing a dying world. Earth, our home planet, could no longer support our population. Climate change, resource depletion, and environmental collapse left us with a choice: spread to the stars or face extinction." The images shifted to show the ship's industrial sections, but now with proper context. Workers produced not weapons but prefabricated homes, farming equipment, and the tools needed to build a new civilization from nothing. You saw our manufacturing capabilities and assumed they were for making weapons. In truth, they exist to help us build colonies on empty worlds. Every machine, every system, every piece of equipment serves one purpose: helping human families create new homes where they can raise their children in safety. Dr. Sullivan appeared on screen in her laboratory surrounded by plant samples and biological research equipment. She spoke directly to the alien crews in her calm, scientific voice. I study alien biology not to develop weapons, but to understand how different species can share worlds peacefully. My research helps us modify our own biology to adapt to alien environments rather than forcing those environments to change for us. The transmission shifted to show Navigation Officer Parker with his star charts and colonization plans. When I spoke of spreading across the galaxy, I meant finding empty star systems where we could establish homes without taking anything from existing civilizations. Our route deliberately avoids all council space to prevent exactly the kind of conflict we face today. Morrison returned to the center of the transmission as Chief Rodriguez finished his repairs. The backup systems came online and communication quality improved dramatically. "The shot that struck our ship hit a communication array," Morrison said. "You damaged our ability to speak with you, not our ability to harm you. That tells you everything about what kind of vessel this really is. We carry tools for building, not weapons for destroying." The next part of the transmission came from the ship's school system, where thousands of human children lived and learned. Young voices spoke in broken galactic standard as they shared messages of friendship with the alien crews. "We want to be friends with the star people," one little girl said while holding a drawing of alien ships and humans working together. "Please do not be scared of us." Morrison felt tears in his eyes as he watched the children's messages play across the communication channels. These were the people he had sworn to protect and guide to safety among the stars. 50,000 souls travel aboard this ship, he said. Mothers and fathers, grandparents and newborns, teachers and students, artists and dreamers. We are not an invasion force. We are a community seeking survival through peaceful means. The transmission concluded with Morrison standing alone on the observation deck looking out at the alien fleet. Behind him, the vast bulk of the Leviathan stretched into the distance with lights showing where human families lived their daily lives. "I understand that our size and capabilities frighten you," he said. "In your position, I might feel the same fear. But I ask you to look beyond our ship's power to see its purpose. We built the Leviathan not to conquer worlds, but to preserve the best of human civilization as we search for new homes." He paused and looked directly into the camera. "We seek only safe passage through your space to reach empty systems where we can establish colonies without harming anyone. In return, we offer friendship, cultural exchange, and the knowledge we have gained from crossing the void between stars." The transmission ended, and Morrison waited. Across the system, alien crews processed what they had heard and seen. On dozens of ships, commanders and ordinary crew members struggled with the implications of his words. Admiral Zexathera was the first to respond. His voice came through the communication system heavy with emotion that the translation software could not fully capture. "Captain Morrison, I owe you and your people an apology. The Council allowed fear to overcome wisdom and nearly caused a tragedy through misunderstanding." Other alien commanders began acknowledging the transmission. Some expressed shame at their hasty judgments, while others offered assistance to the human refugees. Most importantly, the weapon systems that had been aimed at the Leviathan powered down one by one. "Admiral," Morrison replied, "fear is a natural response to the unknown. What matters is that we found understanding before fear led to violence." Over the following hours, representatives from different council species requested permission to visit the Leviathan again. This time they came not as suspicious investigators, but as beings genuinely interested in human culture and achievements. They met the families living aboard the ship and saw firsthand the peaceful nature of the human mission. Children showed them artwork depicting their dreams of new worlds while adults explained the sacrifices they had made to preserve their species. the Council formally offered safe passage through their space and assistance in finding suitable worlds for colonization. Several species expressed interest in establishing trade relationships and cultural exchanges with human colonies. Morrison graciously accepted their friendship while gently declining their offer of Council membership. Humanity needs time to establish itself before joining galactic civilization, he explained. We must learn to walk among the stars before we can run with them. The UES Leviathan continued toward its destination 3 days later, now escorted by a small Council fleet that ensured safe passage through their territory. Admiral Zexithara personally led the escort mission as a gesture of respect and apology. In his final report to the Council, Zexithara wrote words that would be remembered for generations. Humanity poses no military threat to Council space, but represents something perhaps more significant. They are a species with the determination and capability to carry their entire civilization across the void between stars. Any race capable of such an undertaking likely has much to teach the galaxy about survival, determination, and hope. The Leviathan disappeared into hyperspace carrying 50,000 human dreams toward distant stars. Behind them, they left a galaxy changed by the understanding that strength could serve peace and power could preserve rather than destroy. Morrison stood on his bridge watching the stars change as they jumped toward humanity's future. They had survived first contact, not through superior weapons, but through the simple truth of who they were. In a galaxy full of wonders, perhaps the greatest wonder was that different species could find friendship across the vast distances between worlds.